Hey, it's Eric G. Around the House is sponsored by Baldwin Hardware. For 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been known for its first-class quality and craftsmanship in door and cabinetry hardware. As an alumnus of the Baldwin Hardware Design Council, I can say I have seen the details and quality from design to the finished product. If you're looking for a new style and old-world craftsmanship, I can tell you there is only one Baldwin Hardware. Check out what would look great in your home at baldwinhardware.com.
It's Around the House. When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to the Around the House show, the next generation of home improvement. Thanks for tuning in today to our Weekday special. This is the podcast-only version that hits the airwaves out there for everybody. And you know something? This is what didn't happen in last weekend's show and isn't going to make it into this weekend's show. Happy 1st of May, everybody, or whenever you're tuning into this. Boy, I tell you what, it's been a crazy news cycle over the last 24 hours with all these kids breaking into places and everything else. And I'm not going to get into politics here, but I tell you what, I am just happy out there that there are great trade schools that parents can send their kids to get a good education that are going to put them to work and probably make much more than some of these kids out there getting these spending $150,000 to get a humanities degree just so they can go work at Starbucks. And I tell you what, I think the kids going to the trade school can go make $150,000 a year being an electrician or plumber once they get good at it. So parents out there, careful where you send your kids. If you're seeing it on the news and nobody's dealing with it, you know where the problems are. So there's my 2 cents. Let's keep those kids going into trade school so they can get a real education and not get into the hot mess that all these kids are like in New York where they're going to jail, or at least hopefully they are. So breaking and entering, still breaking and entering. Today we're going to be talking about how to find that right contractor, how to hire a contractor for that project. And I tell you what, I can tell you a few places that you don't go. And this is where I see a lot of illegal contractors going on out there. And what I mean by illegal contractors, these are the non-licensed, bonded, insured ones. Like in my area, even a handyman has to be licensed, bonded, insured, because here's what happens. If you hire somebody to come over your work at your house, no matter where you're at in the country, and if they're not, and they get hurt, guess what? You're their employer, which means you're responsible for their medical bills. So if some guy falls off the roof and gets paralyzed, that's your new kid because that is your new dependent. You'll be taking care of them for the rest of your life. So you just got to be careful out there with that kind of stuff. You always want to hire people that are licensed, bonded, insured, and follow up to make sure that they are. There are no savings here hiring that unlicensed contractor because they're unlicensed for a reason. And maybe, here's the thing, maybe you don't have contractor licensing in your area. Maybe you're out in the Midwest someplace, you're out on the East Coast where you're in a small area where they don't do it. Just make sure they're bonded and insured if licensing isn't an issue. You still need to make sure that they're protected and that you're protected. So that way you have a contract, you have an agreement, and that liability falls on them, not on you. So that's the first one there. Some of the worst places I've seen to find contractors are going to be on social media sites like Facebook Marketplace, and Nextdoor is one of the worst ones. I see criminals on there lurking all the time. And you'll have somebody in a neighborhood that's a buddy or a friend going, oh, this person just did this work at my house. Go find them. And you'll see that whole loop. And all of a sudden people are getting taken. And 2, 3, 4 people get taken. I see it every single week on Nextdoor in my neighborhood. People are trying to take advantage of people on that. So here's what I would do. Do your research. First off, ask your friends and family that are in the neighborhood around you who did work on their home. Find out who did the great work. If you're driving by somebody's house and beautiful work being done, ask them. See what's going on. Know your neighbors. And then next, here's another tip right here, is talk to your local state agency or local agency and do your research on who's around you. Now, here's one thing, and this is something that I'm going to try to help contractors with this next year. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in some of our exclusive content. Contractors can be some of the worst offenders of having bad websites or no websites at all. And it's something that we've run into year after year because contractors are out busy. They're working their 50, 60 hours a week trying to get the job done. The last thing they have time for is to sit back and to spend money and design their own website. And so many times, contractors spending all their effort and getting the job done, spending on that, but they're hoping the phone calls and the referrals come in, but they don't spend a lot of times. There are exceptions, of course, but many of them don't spend the time to come up with the right website to tell people exactly what they're doing. So you as a consumer goes out there and starts to really search and go, that website's horrible. And you move on to somebody that's got a better website. Sometimes the scammers are the ones out there that have the slickest websites. And that's unfortunate. So I'm going to really spend some time this next year working with contractors in my area, trying to help them out and get them on the right path of making it easier for people to find them. Because I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in the world of construction right now is having the tool for people to find that's not some like Angie's List or whatever else tool referral thing. Because here's what happens, and this is why this is a bad deal for contractors. So you see all these lead referral services is what they're called out there. So what'll happen is a contractor, a remodeling contractor, will get a hold of these guys and say, hey, my budget to market with you guys and to get leads is like $5,000. They'll take $5,000 a month from these guys. So you as a consumer jumps on this website, gives your information, and then you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people call you. And the problem is each one of those people are paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to contact you. So you as a homeowner gets all these phone calls. You get all this high pressure stuff because these people just paid a couple of $100 just to get your name. And this is where it gets expensive for them. And they're hoping that you're going to buy through one of these people. And so that's why many times when you jump on and ask, hey, what's this project going to cost? They start asking you address, email, because they're going to send contractors your way and they're selling you to that. So that's where the problem is with these. So just pay attention to those kind of things. I'm not the biggest fan of those because a lot of these companies do not do the research. They do not do the background checks. They say they do, but they just look and say, oh, we checked one, say had a contractor's license, and off they go. And so there's not a lot of policing here. And some of them within the review service, you can definitely pay to keep a good review and pay to put a bad review in the back of the line to hide it. So this is where I want you to do your research. And I'm not a big fan of those lead referral services because you're just a piece of meat getting thrown out to the wolves. And you want to be able to control that situation yourself and talk to the people that you've done the research for, not random people looking for work. That's my theory. Now, the other thing here is there's one thing that I don't rely on, and that is the Better Business Bureau. Now, if they have a bunch of complaints and stuff like that's one thing. But I tell you what, I had a bad experience, and you've probably heard me talk about this on the radio show before, where I had a C- for my design or modeling company in Seattle through the BBB. And I had been in business for a few years, and I had absolutely no complaints. No one had contacted. There had been nothing through the BBB, and they asked me to pay $750 to be accredited, and they would give me an A+. Once I told them that I was media and I worked part-time on the radio, all of a sudden I had an A because they didn't want that bad press. But I could have had an A if I would have paid the money. So anytime that you can pay to have a good rating, that is not reliable in my book. And those guys are there to make money. So that is a for-profit business. And I tell you what, they're like Yelp. I don't rely on them either because usually it's just an angry bunch of people doing their thing. So take a look out there. Like in the state of Oregon where I live, I can actually call up our construction contractors board. I can get them on the phone and say, I'm looking at these 3 contractors. What can you tell me? And you can have an honest conversation on their background. They'll go through and say, yeah, this one had a complaint 3 years ago, but they've been in business for 20 years. So that's a stunning record to have one complaint in 20 years. So they will help you many times go through and suss out and figure out what their record is and how good they are. Sometimes people make mistakes. It'll say, oh, their license was suspended. Their license was suspended because they forgot to inform the state that they changed insurance companies. And in my state, the moment that insurance runs out, they suspend the license automatically. Boom. They don't make a phone call. It's just done until we figure it out. So that's one of those things that little mistakes like that happen, but you need to know why those mistakes happen. And that's the key right there. All right, guys, if you have any questions about this kind of stuff, feel free to email me over to roundthehouseonline.com. And if you want to get a hold of me here for the show, we've got a lot of stuff going on. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, I'd love to hear from you. The phone number here at the studio is 833-239-4144. That number again is 833-239-4144. Happy midweek, guys. I hope everybody's having a great one. We'll see you on Saturday's episode. Thanks for tuning in to Around the House. Have a great rest of the week.
Somewhere unseen and undiscovered, anywhere beyond the mean. Life is a love song, let's be lovers. We're all over the radio. Take my hand, I know where to go. All over the radio with you.
Hey, it's Eric G. with Around the House. Are you looking to grow your business? Need a spokesperson for your company? Maybe an MC for an upcoming trade show? Or maybe you want to up your game and shoot some promotional videos? My team of experts would love to chat with you. Head to aroundthehouseonline.com and fill out the Contact Us form, and we'll set something up. Thanks for listening to Around the House.